for drugs anywhere, the lowest price. So in my first year of the second term, should be my third term, but strange things happen. I took prescription drugs, a very big part of healthcare, from the highest price in the entire world to the lowest. That's a big achievement. The result is price differences of 300, 400, 500, 600% and more, all available right now at a new website called TrumpRx.gov. And I didn't name that one either, by the way. And here tonight is the very first customer ever to get that big discount, and it is big, Catherine Rayner. For 5 years, she and her husband have struggled with infertility, and they turned to IVF. One drug has been costing Catherine $4,000 to purchase, but a few weeks ago, she logged onto the TrumpRx website and got that same drug that cost $4,000, got it for under $500. A reduction of much more, actually, than $3,500. Catherine, we are all praying for you, and you're going to be a great mom. So now I'm calling on Congress to codify my most favored nation program into law. Now, the one thing, I'm not sure it matters because it's going to be very hard for somebody that comes along after me to say, let's raise drug prices by 700 or 800%. But John and Mike, if you don't mind, codify it anyway. They may do it. Codify it anyway. Thank you. Many Americans are also concerned that energy demand from AI data centers could unfairly drive up their electric utility bills. Tonight, I'm pleased to announce that I have negotiated the new Ratepayer Protection Pledge. You know what that is? We're telling the major tech companies that they have the obligation to provide for their own power needs. They can build their own power plants as part of their factory so that no one's prices will go up. And in many cases, prices of electricity will go down for the community and very substantially down. This is a unique strategy never used in this country before. We have an old grid. It could never handle the kind of numbers, the amount of electricity that's needed. So I'm telling them they can build their own plant. They're going to produce their own electricity. It will ensure the company's ability to get electricity while at the same time lowering prices of electricity for you, and could be very substantial for all of you cities and towns. You're going to see some good things happen over the next number of years. Another pillar of the American dream that has been under attack is homeownership. With us tonight is Rachel Wiggins, a mom of 2 from Houston. She placed bids on 20 homes and lost all of those bids to gigantic investment firms that bypassed inspection, paid all cash, and turned those houses into rentals, stealing away her American dream. She was devastated. Stories like this are why last month I signed executive order to ban large Wall Street investment firms from buying up in the thousands single-family homes. And now I'm asking Congress to make that ban permanent, because homes for people, really, that's what we want. We want homes for people, not for corporations. Corporations are doing just fine. Rachel, thank you very much. Good luck with your home. You'll get one soon. We're also working to make it easier for Americans to save for retirement. And under this administration, we will always protect Social Security and Medicare. They are not protecting it for our seniors. We will always protect Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Since I took office, the typical 401k balance is up by at least $30,000. It's a lot of money. We have millions and millions of people, because the stock market has done so well, setting all those records. Your 401ks are way up. Yet half of all of working Americans still do not have access to a retirement plan with matching contributions from an employer. To remedy this gross disparity, I'm announcing that next year my administration will give these often forgotten American workers, great people, the people that built our country, access to the same type of retirement plan offered to every federal worker. We will match your contribution with up to $1,000 each year. As we ensure that all Americans can profit from a rising stock market, let's also ensure that members of Congress cannot corruptly profit from using insider information. They stood up for that. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Did Nancy Pelosi stand up if she's here? Doubt it. Pass the Stop Insider Trading Act without delay. I wasn't sure if anybody, even on this side, was going to applaud for that. I'm very impressed. Thank you. I'm very impressed. But when it comes to the corruption that is plundering, it's plundering America. There's been no more stunning example than Minnesota, where members of the Somali community have pillaged an estimated $19 billion from the American taxpayer. Oh, we have all the information. And in actuality, the number is much higher than that. And California, Massachusetts, Maine, and many other states are even worse. This is the kind of corruption that shreds the fabric of a nation, and we are working on it like you wouldn't believe. So tonight, although started 4 months ago, I am officially announcing the war on fraud to be led by our great Vice President, J.D. Vance. He'll get it done. And we're able to find enough of that fraud. We will actually have a balanced budget overnight. It'll go very quickly. That's the kind of money you're talking about. We'll balance our budget. The Somali pirates who ransacked Minnesota remind us that there are large parts of the world where corruption and lawlessness are the norm, not the exception. Importing these cultures through unrestricted immigration and open borders brings those problems right here to the USA. And it is the American people who pay the price in higher medical bills, car insurance rates, rent, taxes, and perhaps most importantly, crime. We will take care of this problem. We're going to take care of this problem. We are not playing games. Delilah. Delilah Coleman was only 5 years old in June 2024 when a 18-wheel tractor trailer plowed into her stopped car traveling at 60 miles an hour or more. The driver was an illegal alien let in by Joe Biden and given a commercial driver's license by open borders politicians in California. Doctors said Delilah would never be able to walk or talk, have a good life. She wouldn't even be able to eat again. But against all odds, she is now in the first grade learning to walk. And she's here this evening with her dad, Marcus, a fantastic man. Delilah, please, you are a great inspiration. Please stand up. Thank you, Delilah. Many, if not most, illegal aliens do not speak English and cannot read even the most basic road signs as to direction, speed, danger, or location. That's why tonight I'm calling on Congress to pass what we will call the Delilah Law, barring any state from granting commercial driver's licenses to illegal aliens. And yesterday, as you probably saw at the White House, I hosted a ceremony with Americans who lost their treasured loved ones to the scourge of illegal immigration. People came into our country, how we allowed this to happen with our open borders. These are the angel moms and families that for decades our government betrayed and our media totally ignored. It was terrible. Hard to believe, actually. In 2023, a 16-year-old high school cheerleader named Lisbeth Medina was supposed to perform in her town's Christmas parade, but she never arrived. Her mother, Jacqueline, went home to look for her, and she found her lying dead in a bathtub, bleeding profusely after being stabbed 25 times. Lisbeth's killer was a previously arrested illegal alien who had broken in and brutally extinguished the brightest light in her family's life, violently and viciously. Her heartbroken mother is in the gallery to remind everyone in this chamber exactly why we are deporting illegal alien criminals to our country at record numbers, and we're getting them the hell out of here fast. We don't want them. Thank you very much, Jacqueline. Thank you. We can never forget that many in this room not only allowed the border invasion to happen before I got involved, but indeed they would do it all over again if they ever had the chance. It's in Congress. Thank you. Thank you. As we speak, Democrats in this chamber have cut off all funding for the Department of Homeland Security. It's all cut off. It's all cut off. They have instituted another Democrat shutdown, the first one costing us 2 points on GDP. 2 points we lost on GDP, which probably made them quite happy, actually. Now they have closed the agency responsible for protecting Americans from terrorists and murderers. Tonight, I'm demanding the full and immediate restoration of all funding for the border security, homeland security of the United States, and also for helping people clean up their snow. We have no money because of the Democrats, and it would be nice. We'd love to give you a hand at cleaning it up, but you gave no money. Nobody's getting paid. It's a shame. So you have to think about it. We have, in case you didn't know, a pretty large snowstorm out there. One of the great things about the State of the Union is how it gives Americans the chance to see clearly what their representatives really believe. So tonight, I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. Isn't that a shame? You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself. That is why I'm also asking you to end deadly sanctuary cities that protect the criminals and enact serious penalties for public officials who block the removal of criminal aliens. In many cases, drug lords, murderers all over our country, they're blocking the removal of these people out of our country, and you should be ashamed of yourself. And perhaps most importantly, I'm asking you to approve the Save America Act. To stop illegal aliens and others who are unpermitted persons from voting in our sacred American elections. That cheating is rampant in our elections. It's rampant. It's very simple. All voters must show voter ID. All voters must show proof of citizenship in order to vote. And no more crooked mail-in ballots except for illness, disability, military, or travel. None. And this should be an easy one. And by the way, it's polling at 89%, including Democrats, 89%. And even the new communist mayor of New York City, I think he's a nice guy, actually. Speak to him a lot. Bad policy, but nice guy. Just said they want people to shovel snow. They got hit hard. Wants them to shovel snow, but if you apply for that job, you need to show 2 original forms of ID and a Social Security card. Yet they don't want identification for the greatest privilege of them all, voting in America. No, it's no good. No good. Both Republicans and Democrats overwhelmingly agree on the policy that we just enunciated. And Congress should unite and enact this common sense, country-saving legislation right now, and it should be before anything else happens. And the reason they don't want to do it, why would anybody not want voter ID? One reason, because they want to cheat. There's only one reason. They make up all excuses. They say it's racist. They come up with things you almost say, what imagination they have. They want to cheat. They have cheated. And their policy is so bad that the only way they can get elected is to cheat. And we're going to stop it. We have to stop it, John. And here is one more opportunity to show common sense in government. In the gallery tonight are Sage Blair and her mother, Michelle. In 2021, Sage was 14 when school officials in Virginia sought to socially transition her to a new gender, treating her as a boy and hiding it from her parents. Hard to believe, isn't it? Before long, a confused Sage ran away from home after she was found in a horrific situation in Maryland. A left-wing judge refused to return Sage to her parents because they did not immediately state that their daughter was their son. Sage was thrown into an all-boys state home and suffered terribly for a long time. But today, all of that is behind them because Sage is a proud and wonderful young woman with a full-ride scholarship to Liberty University. Sage and Michelle, please stand up. And thank you for your great bravery. And who can believe that we're even speaking about things like this? 15 years ago, if somebody was up here and said that, they'd say, what's wrong with him? But now we have to say it because it's going on all over numerous states without even telling the parents. But surely we can all agree no state can be allowed to rip children from their parents' arms and transition them to a new gender against the parents' will. Who would believe that we're even talking about this? We must ban it, and we must ban it immediately. Look, nobody stands up. These people are crazy, I'm telling you. They're crazy. Amazing, incredible. Boy, oh boy. We're lucky we have a country. With people like this, Democrats are destroying our country, but we've stopped it just in the nick of time, didn't we? Huh? No one cares more about protecting America's youth than our wonderful First Lady, now a movie star. She's a movie star. Can you believe it? Who would have believed that? Over the past year, she has had an incredible impact championing AI legislation, advancing a landmark executive order on foster care, and helping secure $30 million to launch the Melania Trump Foster Youth to Independence Initiative. It's a tremendous, really a tremendous thing that happened and had a lot of bipartisan support. She gets much better bipartisan support than I do. I get none. She gets a lot. Someday you're going to have to tell me how you did that. And students and educators in every state have joined the First Lady's efforts in the presidential AI challenge, keeping America's next generation positioned to succeed and strongly succeed in the future. Tonight, we welcome two young people whose lives reflect the First Lady's impact, Sierra Burns and Everest Nevermont. Thank you both, and Melania, thank you. I know how hard you worked on it. Thank you very much. I'm very proud to say that during my time in office, both the first 4 years and in particular this last year, there has been a tremendous renewal in religion, faith, Christianity, and belief in God. Tremendous renewal. This is especially true among young people, and a big part of that had to do with my great friend, Charlie Kirk, a great guy, great man. So last year, Charlie was violently murdered by an assassin and martyred, really martyred for his beliefs. His wonderful wife, Erica, is with us tonight. Erica, please stand. Thank you, Erica. Been through a lot. In Charlie's memory, we must all come together to reaffirm that America is one nation under God, and we must totally reject political violence of any kind. We love religion, and we love bringing it back, and it's coming back at levels that nobody actually thought possible. It's really a beautiful thing to see. Above all, unleashing America's promise requires keeping our communities safe. We have made incredible strides, yet dangerous repeat offenders continue to be released by pro-crime Democrat politicians again and again. We are honored to be joined tonight by a woman who's been through hell, Anya Zarutska. In 2022, she and her beautiful daughter, so beautiful, what a beautiful young woman, Irina, fled war-torn Ukraine to live with relatives near Charlotte, North Carolina. And by the way, what's going on with Charlotte? Last summer, 23-year-old Irina was riding home on the train when a deranged monster who had been arrested over a dozen times and was released through no cash bail, stood up and viciously slashed a knife through her neck and body. No one will ever forget. There were people on that train. No one will ever forget the expression of terror on Irina's face as she looked up at her attacker in the last seconds of her life. She died instantly. She had escaped a brutal war only to be slain by a hardened criminal, set free to kill in America, came in through open borders. Mrs. Zarutska, tonight I promise you we will ensure justice for your magnificent daughter, Irina. How do you not stand? How do you not stand? I'm asking this Congress to pass tough legislation to ensure that violent and dangerous repeat offenders are put behind bars, and importantly, that they stay there. Starting last summer, I deployed our National Guard and federal law enforcement to restore law and order to our most dangerous cities, including Memphis, Tennessee, big success, New Orleans, Louisiana, big success, and our nation's capital itself, Washington, D.C., where we have almost no crime anymore in Washington, D.C. How did that happen? In fact, crime in Washington is now at the lowest level ever recorded, and murders in D.C. this January were down close to 100% from a year ago. They don't like to hear that. One of the brave service members who helped achieve this stunning turnaround was 20-year-old West Virginia Army National Guard Specialist Sarah Beckstrom. After a 4-month deployment, she voluntarily extended her service, and her rank was going to be lifted. She was doing so well. They were so proud of her. But the very next day, she was on patrol near the White House when she was ambushed and shot in the head by a terrorist monster from Afghanistan. Shouldn't have been in our country. And all because she wore the uniform of our nation. She was shot. He traveled here because he didn't like people wearing our uniform. He was sick and deranged, shouldn't have been in our country. Sarah Beckstrom died in order to defend our capital, and we are honored to be joined by her wonderful parents, Gary and Evalie. Your daughter was a true American patriot, and she will be greatly missed. She was a great person. I saw reports on her. They've never seen anything like it. So sorry. Thank you very much. She's a great young lady. I saw reports that were like perfect. She was perfect. Serving alongside Sarah that day was Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf. The terrorist shot Andrew in the head, and no one thought he could possibly make it. The two of them, Sarah and Andrew, both shot violently in the head. Neither was expected to make it. They weren't even given a chance, except his wonderful mother, named Melody, who I spoke to the same night, and she was so positive. The doctors thought that Andrew was gone, but his mother said, no, Mr. President, Andrew will be fine. He's going to make it. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, he was given almost no chance. She said, I have no doubt, sir, he's going to be okay. This was a conversation that I had with her that night, with her son laying helplessly in bed, blood all over. Everybody is praying, she said, sir, he will be okay. The doctors didn't understand what she was saying, and after looking at the results of the damage done, neither did I. She was so strong and conclusive that even Andrew's great father felt she didn't really understand the gravity of the situation. But she turned out to be right. Right, Melody? She turned out to be right. Amazing, actually. I said, where does this woman come from? She's the most positive person I've ever met. With God's help, Andrew has battled back from the edge of death, and we're talking about the edge of death, on his way to a miraculous recovery. He's got a little work to do, but he's doing great. Nice to see you. He's a good-looking guy. Nice to see you. Thanks, Andrew. Thank you very much. So, Andrew, while you're up, now I'm going to ask a highly respected General James Seward to present Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf and the great family of Sarah Beckstrom with the award created by our late, great President George Washington himself. It's called the Purple Heart. We love you all. Love you. We're proudly restoring safety for Americans at home, and we are also restoring security for Americans abroad. Our country has never been stronger. My first 10 months, I ended 8 wars, including Cambodia. Isn't it funny? Sick people. Cambodia and Thailand, Pakistan and India. Would have been a nuclear war. 35 million people said the Prime Minister of Pakistan would have died if it were not for my involvement. Kosovo and Serbia, Israel and Iran, Egypt and Ethiopia, Armenia and Azerbaijan, the Congo and Rwanda, and of course the war in Gaza, which proceeds at a very low level. It's just about there. And I want to thank Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner for your help. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Jared. And I also want to thank the man they report to, Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Thank you, Marco. People like you. You know, Marco got 100% of the votes when he was in confirmation. I think our next one was about 54%. And some of the Democrats are now saying, I can't believe we approved that guy. And he said it's an honor that they feel that way, right, Marco? You have done a great job, great Secretary of State. I think he'll go down as the best ever. Under the ceasefire I negotiated, every single hostage, both living and dead, has been returned home. Can you believe that? Nobody thought it was possible. Nobody thought that was possible. Both living and dead, and those parents who had a dead son, their boy, they'd always tell me their boy, they wanted him as much as though he were living. It was an amazing period of time. And they came back, and when we got all of the living hostages back, and many, many before them, but I always said those last 20 are going to be very tough, but we got many, many more, hundreds. But I said those last 20 are going to be tough. We got them back. But we only got back 14 or 15 of the dead, of the 28. And believe it or not, Hamas worked along with Israel, and they dug and they dug and they dug. It's a tough thing to do, going through bodies all over, passing up 100 bodies sometimes for each one that they found. Tough job. And they finally got it back to 27. And then Steve and Jared, they got it back to 28. They found all 28. Nobody thought that was possible, but we did it. And I remember the family of the 28th. They were so grieved, but they were so happy as it's possible to be. They had their boy back. The mother said, "Sir, we have our boy back." What a period of time that was, but we got them all back. So thank you both very much. Great job. And we're working very hard to end the 9th war, the killing and slaughter between Russia and Ukraine, where 25,000 soldiers are dying each and every month. Think of that, 25,000 soldiers are dying a month. A war which would have never happened if I were president, would have never happened. As president, I will make peace wherever I can, but I will never hesitate to confront threats to America wherever we must. That's why in a breakthrough operation last June, the United States military obliterated Iran's nuclear weapons program with an attack on Iranian soil known as Operation Midnight Hammer. For decades, it had been the policy of the United States never to allow Iran to obtain a nuclear weapon. Many decades. Since they seized control of that proud nation 47 years ago, the regime and its murderous proxies have spread nothing but terrorism and death and hate. They've killed and maimed thousands of American service members and hundreds of thousands and even millions of people with what's called roadside bombs. They were the kings of the roadside bomb. And we took out Soleimani. I did that during my first term. Had a huge impact. He was the father of the roadside bomb. And just over the last couple of months with the protests, they've killed at least, it looks like, 32,000 protesters. 32,000 protesters in their own country. They shot them and hung them. We stopped them from hanging a lot of them with the threat of serious violence. But this is some terrible people. They've already developed missiles that can threaten Europe and our bases overseas, and they're working to build missiles that will soon reach the United States of America. After Midnight Hammer, they were warned to make no future attempts to rebuild their weapons program, and in particular, nuclear weapons. Yet they continue. They're starting it all over. We wiped it out, and they want to start all over again, and are at this moment again pursuing their sinister ambitions. We are in negotiations with them. They want to make a deal, but we haven't heard those secret words. We will never have a nuclear weapon. My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. But one thing is certain, I will never allow the world's #1 sponsor of terror, which they are by far, to have a nuclear weapon. Can't let that happen. And no nation should ever doubt America's resolve. We have the most powerful military on earth. I rebuilt the military in my first term. We're going to continue to do so. Also, we just approved a $1 trillion budget. We have no choice. We have to be strong because hopefully we will seldom have to use this great power that we built together. It's really called peace through strength, and it's been very, very effective. So thanks to Republicans in Congress who are investing that record number of dollars, have no choice, in the United States Armed Forces. Also creating a lot of jobs, but we're not even doing it for that reason. Because as I said, we have more jobs, more people working today than ever before in the history of our country. And NATO countries are friends and allies. They are. They're our friends and they're our allies. Have just agreed at my very strong request to pay 5% of GDP for military defense rather than the 2%, which they weren't paying. We were paying for almost all of NATO. Now they're paying 5 as opposed to not paying 2. And getting that 5% was something which everyone said would never be done, could not happen. We got it really easily with one meeting. And big difference between 2% that's not paid. We were paying the freight of many of them. Very few were paid up. Now 5%, then they're paid. And everything we send over to Ukraine is sent through NATO, and they pay us in full. They pay us totally in full. Every branch of our armed forces is setting records for recruitment. This is so exciting. And every service member recently. And every service member recently received a warrior dividend of $1,776. You know, they put it on my desk. We got the money from tariffs and other things, a lot of money we have. We have much more money than people understand. Have to rebuild that program a little bit, but it won't take long. But we got the money, and it was $1,775, and they wanted my approval. And I said, what's the number? $1,775. I said, wait a minute, for one more dollar, we can have $1,776. It's going to I said, we're going to figure that. I never asked anybody if we could afford it. One more dollar, I said $1,776. And I said, that's good. And I'll tell you what, our military, that was 4 months ago, our military, I never see a person in the military that doesn't thank me for it, so we're honored to do it. They deserve it. And we call it 1776. It was great. And we love our military. We love our law enforcement. We love our firemen. You know, the firemen don't get mentioned enough. We love our firemen. We're also restoring American security and dominance in the Western Hemisphere, acting to secure our national interests and defend our country from violence, drugs, terrorism, and foreign interference. For years, large swaths of territory in our region, including large parts of Mexico, really large parts of Mexico, have been controlled by murderous drug cartels. That's why I designated these cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, and I declared illicit fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. And with our new military campaign, we have stopped record amounts of drugs coming into our country and virtually stopped it completely coming in by water or sea. You probably noticed that. We very seriously damaged their fishing industry also. Nobody wants to go fishing anymore. We've also taken down one of the most sinister cartel kingpins of all. You saw that yesterday. In January, elite American warriors carried out one of the most complex, spectacular feats of military competence and power in world history. No one's seen anything like it. Foreign leaders, I won't tell you who, called me and they said, very impressive, very good. They couldn't believe, they all watched, they saw what happened. This is a different fighting force that we had years ago when we fought to tie. You know, it's a great fighting force. I'm so proud of it. Look at Space Force. Space Force is my baby, because we did that. My baby, it's becoming so important. And America's armed forces overwhelmed all defenses and utterly defeated an enemy, good fighters, to end the reign of outlaw dictator Nicolas Maduro and bring him to face American justice. And this was an absolutely colossal victory for the security of the United States, and it also opens up a bright new beginning for the people of Venezuela. We're working closely with the new president of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, to unleash extraordinary economic gains for both of our countries and to bring new hope to those who have suffered so terribly. They really did suffer. With us tonight is Alejandro Gonzalez. She grew up in a tight-knit Venezuelan family and was especially close to her beloved Uncle Enrique, But after Enrique ran for office and opposed Maduro, he was kidnapped by Maduro's security forces and thrown into the regime's really infamous prison in Caracas. Alejandro feared she would never see her uncle again. She feared for her own life also. But since the raid, we have worked with the new leadership, and they have ordered the closure of that vile prison and released hundreds of political prisoners already, with more to come. Alejandro, I'm pleased to inform you that not only has your uncle been released, but he is here tonight. We brought him over to celebrate his freedom with you in person. Enrique, please come down. Thank you, Enrique. Have a good time. Nice to have you back, Enrique. There were many heroes on that January raid to capture Maduro, really great heroes. It was very dangerous. They knew we were coming. They were all set. But the deeds of one warrior that night will live forever in the eternal chronicles of military valor. Chief Warrant Officer 5, Eric Slover, planned the mission and was the flight lead in the cockpit of the first helicopter, a big, beautiful, powerful helicopter. It was a massive Chinook carrying, as you can imagine, many, many American warfighters. Wearing the dog tags, his wife Amy had blessed with holy water before he left. She knew it was going to be a rough one. Eric steered the Chinook under the cover of night and descended swiftly upon Maduro's heavily protected military fortress. This was a major military installation, protected by thousands of soldiers and guarded by Russian and Chinese military technology. How did that work out? Not too good. While preparing to land, enemy machine guns fired from every angle, and Eric was hit very badly in the leg and hip, one bullet after another. He absorbed 4 agonizing shots, shredding his leg into numerous pieces. And yet, despite the fact that the use of his legs was vital to successful helicopter flight, legs are the most important part of flying a helicopter, to deliver the many commandos who would capture and detain Maduro was the only thing Eric was thinking about. Then, even as he was gushing blood, which was flowing back down the aisle, helicopter lands at a steep angle. The machine guns stood right in front of him. They were right in front of him, 2 machine gunners who escaped the wrath of the previous planes. Eric maneuvered his helicopter with all of those lives and souls to face the enemy and let his gunners eliminate the threat. Turned the helicopter around so the gunners could take care of business, saving the lives of his fellow warriors from what could have been a catastrophic crash deep in enemy territory. Only after safely landing the helicopter with all the warriors aboard in the exact right spot, which was vital to the mission. We probably would have had to maybe cancel the mission if that didn't happen. Eric told his co-pilot, also wounded, but not as gravely, to take over. I'm about ready to pass out. The success of the entire mission and the lives of his fellow warriors hinge on Eric's ability to take the searing pain. It was unbelievable what's happened to his legs of the bullets and keep on flying and landing, and people knew what was happening. Everybody in the back of the helicopter knew because they saw the blood pouring down the aisle. Chief Warrant Officer Slover is still recovering from his serious wounds, but I'm thrilled to say that he is here tonight with his wife, Amy. Eric and Amy, come on in. So we have a surprise for Eric and Amy. In recognition of Eric's actions above and beyond the call of duty, I would now like to ask General Jonathan Braga to present Chief Warrant Officer Slover with our nation's highest military award, the Congressional Medal of Honor. Well, thank you very much, Eric and Amy. Great to get to know you. I met with them and with a lot of their fellow warriors at Fort Bragg recently. You notice the name Fort Bragg, we have it back, we brought it back. We won the First World War with it, the Second World War with it, and then they decided to change the name. So we changed it back. Everybody wanted to change back too. And 10 of Eric's fellow warriors from that incredible night of victory will also be receiving medals at a private ceremony that will soon be held at the White House, and Eric will be there. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. That's a big one. Tonight we've celebrated many truly extraordinary American patriots, but there is one last living legend to honor before we go. He is one more heroic American aviator, Navy fighter pilot. Royce Williams served in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, flying more than 220 missions. In the skies over Korea in 1952, Royce was in the dogfight of a lifetime, legendary dogfight. Flying through blizzard conditions, his squadron was ambushed by 7 Soviet fighter planes. It was his first aerial combat of the war, and despite being massively outnumbered and outgunned, Royce led the takedown of 4 enemy jets and almost destroyed the others, vanquishing his adversaries while taking 263 bullets to his own plane and being seriously hurt. His story was secret for over 50 years. He didn't even want to tell his wife, but the legend grew and grew. But tonight, at 100 years old, this brave Navy captain is finally getting the recognition he deserves. He was a legend long before this evening. Royce, please stand up, and I will ask the First Lady of the United States to present Captain Royce Williams with his Congressional Medal of Honor. Thank you, Royce, and thank you, Eric. I've always wanted the Congressional Medal of Honor, but I was informed I'm not allowed to give it to myself, and I wouldn't know why I'd be taking it, but if they ever open up that law, I will be there with you someday. But you know, that's our highest honor, Congressional Medal of Honor, and that's a big thing, and it's an honor to be in the same room with you. Thank you both very much, Eric. Thank you. Thank you. 250 years is a long time in the life of a nation, but in another sense, it's really a mere moment in the eye of history. Two of the gentlemen we met in the gallery this evening took their first breaths 1 century ago, 100 years before that, on July 4th, 1826, the author of the Declaration of Independence, brilliant, Thomas Jefferson, drew his last breath. Just a single long human lifespan separates the giants who declared and won our independence from the heroes who stand among us tonight. Everything our nation has done, everything we have achieved, has been the work of those few great lifetimes. In those brief chapters, Americans built this nation from 13 humble colonies into the pinnacle of human civilization and human freedom, the strongest, wealthiest, most powerful, most successful nation in all of history. Americans ventured out across the daunting and dangerous continent. We carved paths through an unforgiving wilderness, settled a boundless frontier, and tamed the beautiful but very, very dangerous Wild West. From empty marshes and wide open plains, we raised up the world's greatest cities. Together, we mastered the world's mightiest industries and shattered history's monstrous tyrannies. And we liberated millions from the chains of fascism, communism, oppression, and terror. Americans lifted humanity into the skies on the wings of aluminum and steel And then we launched mankind into the stars on rockets powered by sheer American will and unyielding American pride. We wired the globe with our ingenuity. We captivated the planet with American culture. And now we are pioneering the next great American breakthroughs that will change the entire world. All of this and so much more is the enduring legacy, unmatched glory of the hardworking patriots who built and defended this country and who still carry the hopes and freedoms on all of humanity's backs. For years they were forgotten, betrayed, and cast aside. But that great betrayal is over, and they will never be forgotten again. Because when the world needs courage, daring, vision, and inspiration, it is still turning to America. And when God needs a nation to work his miracles, he knows exactly who to ask. There is no challenge Americans cannot overcome, no frontier too vast for us to conquer, no dream too bold for us to chase, no horizon too distant for us to claim. For our destiny is written by the hand of providence, and these first 250 years were just the beginning. From the rugged border towns of Texas to the heartland villages of Michigan, from the sun-kissed shores of Florida to the endless fields of the Dakotas, and from the historic streets of Philadelphia to right here in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., the golden age of America is upon us. The revolution that began in 1776 has not ended. It still continues because the flame of liberty and independence still burns in the heart of every American patriot. And our future will be bigger, better, brighter, bolder, and more glorious than ever before. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
You're looking at video now of President Donald Trump as he makes his exit from the U.S. House chamber. He has been giving what is now the longest State of the Union address in our country's history. He broke that record tonight, but he's shaking hands with a lot of those members of Congress who often line the aisles in moments like this, mostly probably Republicans, if I had to guess, but wanting to get that moment with the president after his address, after multiple rounds of standing ovations from Republicans. But we'll get into a bit of what we heard in terms of Democratic response here in a moment. I'm Meg Kennard. I'm back here, of course, with Sagar Meghani in the U.S. Capitol. And Sagar, we've been listening to this speech. Just a reminder to you all, by the way, we will be bringing you the Democratic response from Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger as soon as it begins. So if you make an abrupt exit from our talkback right now, that's exactly what's going to be happening. So just a reminder of the fast-moving night we have. But Sagar, what do you think is, aside from the record-breaking length, one of your biggest takeaways in terms of what we heard from President Trump tonight?
I think the first part was what the White House and what many Republicans wanted it to be, and that was very heavily focused on the economy and on acknowledging that people still don't see costs as low as they want them to be. He really tried to lean into things he has done to help the economy, from Trump's savings accounts and, of course, the tariffs, with very muted criticism of the Supreme Court, unlike he did after its ruling back on Friday. There was the Trump veering off message. We have the prepared text and we can follow along. And I think we all know the president's face and his tone changing when he wants to veer. But he also turned it into a pep rally of sorts, right? I've never seen that many awards and actual medals.
There were a lot
out.
of awards and medals. The Presidential Medal of Freedom was given out.
Purple
Congressional
Hearts.
Medal of Honor.
The Legion of Merit.
2 Purple Hearts, Legion of Merit. There was the men's Olympic gold medal winning hockey team, some members of it in the balcony. They were at the White House earlier today. They're in the chamber with their medals tonight.
With the promise of another medal.
Right, for the goalie.
It's it was something. It was the president likes giving things out and he likes receiving them as well. So there was the obligatory joke about whether he's going to get some type of award and whether he's allowed to do that. We also saw Democrats sitting quietly or standing without
Mr. Speaker,
clapping.
I move that the message
yelled,
of the president
some
be
were
referred
thrown
to
out.
the committee of the whole on the state.
I think in all, it was about what we expected. The president said to expect a very long speech. It was a very long speech, not nearly as combative as a lot of things we've heard, but
Mr. Speaker, I also move that the House stand adjourned.
It would appear he got done what he wanted.
Questions on the motion to
It seemed like
adjourn.
we
Those in favor
really
say
did
aye.
hear a lot of that focus on the
Those
economy
opposed,
that
no.
the vice president, that other elected Republicans have said that they really want to hear from President Trump. And Americans have issued that as well in terms of their responses to polling questions about, hey, can he talk more about the domestic economy issues that we're still seeing? But there was a mention of, for President Trump's perspective, him being able to bring down prices for regular Americans and all of the different economic boosts that he's been able to hand out in terms of making prices better for drugs and the Trump accounts that have recently been stood up. So kind of making a lot of those references. By the way, looking at your screens, you're seeing more pictures of Statuary Hall. Remember, this is exactly what we were looking at earlier before the State of the Union address began. It's where we saw all those members of the cabinet and senators as well filing through that area, this historic, vaunted space in the U.S. Capitol, through there into the House chamber, which is back that way. So now this is where we will be seeing those same people exiting the chamber as they come back through. There are other media members in there, from the AP included, getting those shots, grabbing lawmakers for interviews. We do expect to have some reaction from members of Congress that we'll be bringing you as part of our post-game show, so to speak. But just a reminder of what you're seeing there in Statuary Hall. So, Sagar, back to talking about the speech that we just listened to for, I don't remember exactly how many minutes that was.
North of 1 hour, 45 minutes. The record was 1:39 with Bill Clinton, but this one was a little bit different.
Right. Okay, we're going to take a break just a moment so we can speak to one of those members of Congress. So, Sagar, if you can just step out for just a second.
I'll just leave.
I got to kick you out of my shot.
Fine. I'm going.
All right. All right, as mentioned, we're going to be speaking with some members of Congress, getting their reaction to the speech tonight. So I have with me Representative Eric Burleson. Hello, thank you so much for being with us tonight. And if you can, first off, just kind of give us your top line, your 30,000-foot view of what you heard in the State of the Union.
Well, I heard a vision. I heard a bold vision for the country, and what bolder individual to lay out that vision. The president, I think he did a really good job at reminding us of how far we've come in just 1 year. The fact that we went from a nation that was overrun in our borders. We had fentanyl coming across, killing, thousands and thousands of U.S. citizens.
Mark Williamsburg, we are gathered here in the chambers of the House of Burgesses. In 1705, the people of the Virginia colony gathered here to take on the extraordinary task of governing themselves. Before there was a Declaration of Independence, a Constitution, or a Bill of Rights, there were people in this room. The people who served here ultimately dreamed of what a new nation, unlike anything the world had ever seen, could be. The United States was founded on the idea that ordinary people could reject the unacceptable excesses of poor leadership, band together to demand better of their government, and create a nation that would be an example for the world. And this year, as we celebrate 250 years since America declared our independence from tyranny, I can think of no better place to speak to you as we reflect on the current state of our union. Tonight, as we watched our nation's lawmakers gather for a joint session of Congress, we did not hear the truth from our president. So let's speak plainly and honestly. And let me ask you, the American people watching at home, 3 questions. Is the president working to make life more affordable for you and your family? Is the president working to keep Americans safe both at home and abroad? Is the president working for you? As I campaigned for governor last year, I traveled to every corner of Virginia, and I heard the same pressing concern everywhere. Costs are too high in housing, healthcare, energy, and childcare. And I know these same conversations are being had all across this country. Because since this president took office last year, his reckless trade policies have forced American families to pay more than $1,700 each in tariff costs. Small businesses have suffered, farmers have suffered, some losing entire markets. Everyday Americans are paying the price. And even though the Supreme Court struck these tariffs down 4 days ago, the damage to us, the American people, has already been done. Meanwhile, the president is planning for new tariffs, another massive tax hike on you and your family. And Republicans in Congress, they remain unwilling to assert their constitutional authority to stop him. They're making your life harder. They're making your life more expensive. They're even making it more difficult to see a doctor. Rural health clinics in Virginia and across the country are already closing their doors thanks to the so-called One Big Beautiful Bill, championed by the president and Republicans in Congress. And tonight, the president celebrated this law, the one threatening rural hospitals, stripping health care from millions of Americans and driving up costs in energy and housing, all while cutting food programs for hungry kids. But here in Virginia, I am working with our state legislature to lower costs and make the Commonwealth more affordable. And it's not just me. Democrats across the country are laser focused on affordability in our nation's capital and in state capitals and communities across America. In the most innovative and exceptional nation in the history of the world, Americans deserve to know that their leaders are focused on addressing the problems that keep them up at night. Problems that dictate where you live, whether you can afford to start a business or whether you have to skip a prescription in order to buy groceries. So I'll ask again, is the president working to make life more affordable for you, and your family? We all know the answer is no. I grew up in a house of service. My mother was a nurse, and my father was a career law enforcement officer. I began my career by following in my father's footsteps as a federal agent, working money laundering and narcotics cases. I worked side by side with local and state police to keep our community safe and to uphold and enforce the law. Law enforcement officers across the country know that it is a unique responsibility to do the serious work of investigating crimes, comforting victims, and making arrests. It's about building trust, and that requires an abiding sense of duty and commitment to community. And yet, our president has sent poorly trained federal agents into our cities, where they have arrested and detained American citizens and people who aspire to be Americans. And they have done it without a warrant. They have ripped nursing mothers away from their babies. They have sent children, a little boy in a blue bunny hat, children to far-off detention centers, and they have killed American citizens in our streets. And they have done it all with their faces masked from accountability. Every minute spent sowing fear is a minute not spent investigating murders, crimes against children, or the criminals defrauding seniors of their life savings. Our president told us tonight that we are safer because these agents arrest mothers and detain children. Think about that. Our broken immigration system is something to be fixed, not an excuse for unaccountable agents to terrorize our communities. After working in law enforcement, I continued my career of service as a CIA officer, working undercover to protect the United States and our allies from global threats, terrorism, nuclear weapons, and the aggression of adversarial nations around the globe. But as the president spoke of his perceived successes tonight, he continues to cede economic power and technological strength to Russia, bow down to China, bow down to a Russian dictator, and make plans for war with Iran. Here's the truth. Over the last year, through DOJ, mass firings, and the appointment of deeply unserious people to our nation's most serious positions, our president has endangered the long and storied history of the United States of America being a force for good. So I'll ask again, is the president working to keep Americans safe, both at home and abroad? We all know the answer is no. In his speech tonight, the president did what he always does. He lied, he scapegoated, and he distracted. And he offered no real solutions to our nation's pressing challenges, so many of which he is actively making worse. He tries to divide us. He tries to enrage us, to pit us against one another, neighbor against neighbor. And sometimes he succeeds. And so you have to ask, who benefits from his rhetoric, his policies, his actions, the short list of laws he's pushed through this Republican Congress? Somebody must be benefiting. He's enriching himself, his family, his friends. The scale of the corruption is unprecedented. There's the cover-up of the Epstein files, the crypto scams, cozying up to foreign princes for airplanes and billionaires for ballrooms, putting his name and face on buildings all over our nation's capital. This is not what our founders envisioned, not by a long shot. So I'll ask again, is the president working for you? We all know the answer is no. But here's the special thing about America. On our 250th anniversary, we know better than any nation what is possible when ordinary citizens, like those who once dreamed right here in this room, reject the unacceptable and demand more of their government. We see it in the determination of students organizing school walkouts all across the country, whose voices are becoming so powerful that the governor of Texas seeks to silence them. We see it in the bravery of Americans in Minnesota standing up for their communities, from peacefully protesting in sub-zero temperatures to carpooling children to school so that their immigrant parents are not ripped away from them in the parking lot. As a mother of 3 school-aged daughters, I am inspired by their bravery, but I am sickened that it is necessary. And Americans across the country are taking action. They are going to the ballot box to reject this chaos. With their votes, they are writing a new story, a more hopeful story. In November, I won my election by 15 points. And we won 13 new seats in our state legislature. Because voters decided they wanted something different. Our campaign earned votes from Democrats, Republicans, independents, and everyone in between, because they knew as citizens they could demand more, that they could vote for what they believe matters, and that they didn't need to be constrained by a party or political affiliation. This is happening across the country. New Jersey elected Mikey Sherrill as governor in a double-digit victory. Democrats flipped state legislative seats in places like Georgia, Iowa, Mississippi, and Texas. The list goes on and on. Ordinary Americans are stepping up to run in the spirit of our forefathers. They are running to demand more and to do more for their neighbors and communities. I know this story well. I first ran for office in 2018 alongside dozens of other Democrats who did the seemingly impossible, flipping 41 seats in Congress. In my case, I was the first Democrat elected in 50 years, swinging our district 17 points. Those who are stepping up now to run will win in November, because Americans, you at home, know you can demand more, and that we are working to lower costs. We are working to keep our communities and our country safe, and we are working for you. In his farewell address, George Washington warned us about the possibility of, quote, cunning, ambitious, and unprincipled men rising to power. But he also encouraged us, all Americans, to unite in a common cause, to move this nation forward. That is our charge once more, and that is what we are seeing across the country. It is deeply American and patriotic to do so, and it is how we ensure that the state of our union remains strong, not just this year, but for the next 250 years as well, because we, the people, have the power to make change, the power to stand up for what is right, the power to demand more of our nation. May God bless the Commonwealth of Virginia, and may God bless the United States of America.
Welcome back. You've been listening to the Democratic response to President Donald Trump's State of the Union from Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger. I'm joined here now in Emancipation Hall with Congresswoman Nancy Mace of South Carolina. Congresswoman, it's so good to be with you, and we're here in D.C., not at home.
Good evening. We're here at the nation's capital, the greatest nation in the world, with the greatest president who gave the greatest State of the Union speech tonight.
Okay, so I have an idea of how you felt about it, but first off, give me your top lines. What's your 30,000-foot view of what we just heard tonight?
It was beautiful. It was polished. It was professional. It was beautiful. His words and his messaging, the people that he recognized, I never felt more American and proud to be an American than I did tonight.
So you were in that chamber, and I was following along, obviously, but I know it's different to be in there. There seemed to me, compared to some other State of the Union addresses I've seen in the past, there were some moments of bipartisanship, at least when maybe not all, but some Democrats were standing in support with Republican members. What did it feel like to you, at least in terms of what page members of Congress were on?
I wish it was more. I mean, particularly when Trump asked asked Congress if they would put American citizens first. That was a defining moment, I think, in the speech between where we are as a nation divided. A nation without laws, a nation without borders, a nation without citizens isn't a nation at all. I thought he did beautiful. It'd be great to see more nonpartisanship, more bipartisanship in this political era. But I think he did a terrific job, and I want to praise both the right and the left for standing up together in some of those special but rare moments.
In terms of how the State of the Union is viewed in an election year, clearly you're running for office yourself this year. Many people in that chamber are either running for re-election or another office. What did the president need to try to accomplish in terms of helping his party, helping your party, bring that message into contests across the country this year? And in your estimation, did he land that message?
He 100% landed it. Affordability and cost of living is number one, top of mind for voters this year, especially in South Carolina, where we're the fastest growing state in the country right now by population. So talking about tax cuts, tax benefits, to talk about what he's done with the economy. Wages are up by over 1% last year. The economic growth we've had, over 3% on average for last fiscal year. We had 2 quarters with over 4% GDP growth. And so he expounded on that and bragged about those successes, lower mortgage interest rates, food costs are going down, and he recognized all of those successes, which are great for the American people. And then also keeping our neighborhoods safe, deporting the worst of the worst illegal aliens, the rapists, the murderers, the pedophiles. He did what he needed to do with the right tone, the right intonation, the right pace. He did it. Best State of the Union speech I've seen.
What do you think needs to happen next? Not just for the president, because we know he's going to be on the road more, heading into different states, like he was in Georgia recently, traveling around ahead of the midterms. What do you think needs to happen next for him, as well as Republicans like yourself, to take some of this messaging out into the rest of the country?
Well, if the president gets on the campaign trail, I'll feel better about the midterms, having that kind of energy, because President Trump is not on the ballot. We're expecting a lower turnout, so if he can energize the base, or if we have candidates who can energize the base, we'll be better off than otherwise. I'm very worried about the midterms and getting torn up in there because of what it's looking like right now. So if he's going on the campaign trail, that's fantastic for America.
You say you're worried about the midterms. Do you say that in terms of the House, the Senate, both?
House. I mean, I think the House, losing the House is a very real possibility. I think it's very contentious. I think that the left is more motivated. They're motivated against something rather than for something. And Republicans need to really pay attention, because we could get wiped out in the midterms in the House.
If that were to happen, if there were to be Republican losses in either chamber or both chambers, what do you think that would mean for the remaining 2 years of President Trump's term in office in terms of how he would need to effectively message to get things across the finish line or even close to it?
I think it's very scary, the prospect of Democrats having any sort of majority in either chamber with Trump as president. I think the retribution and retaliation will be far worse than anything we could ever imagine, and I'm deeply concerned about it.
Are there any other takeaways from tonight that we haven't talked about that you want to mention?
He did a great job. Really proud to be an American. This was the best speech, better than anything I could have imagined he delivered, and he did it on point. He's so brave and so courageous. Nothing made me prouder than being in that chamber tonight for my last State of the Union as a member of Congress.
Congresswoman, thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you. In reaction to President Donald Trump's State of the Union address from Congresswoman Nancy Mace of South Carolina, we will be back in a few minutes with more reaction to tonight's speech. Back soon. Hey there, and welcome back. Again, this is Meg Kennard here in the U.S. Capitol, and we've been getting some reaction from members of Congress to President Donald Trump's State of the Union address. I'm joined here now with Representative Adriano Espaillat, the chairman of the Hispanic Caucus, and you have a special guest here. Would you like to introduce your special guest?
Of course. I have Fernando with me. Fernando is an 18-year-old young man, a U.S. citizen whose family was deported to Monterrey, Mexico, including his siblings that are all U.S. citizens, and his 11-year-old sister who's suffering from a brain tumor that she needs immediate help at Houston, a hospital in Houston. So he's here by himself in the country, working to sustain the house that his mother left behind. He's someone that has great aspirations. He wants to go to college. He plays the trombone. He likes music. He's a real smart young man and has a great future ahead of him. But his family is divided, is split up. And so that's why I brought him here, because I think America needs to see his face, hear his story, and listen to what he has to say.
Given the focus on some of those issues, especially related to immigration that we did hear during the speech tonight, I'm interested to hear from both of you, but I'll start with you, Congressman, your top line's reaction to, especially on that issue, but any other issues you'd like to bring up that you heard from the President tonight.
Of course, we heard the same thing before. He's blaming people, dividing the country, finger pointing, accusing folks, calling all immigrants criminals, as his family are working class families. They work for a living. When I visit the detention center, over 90% of the people that I see there are working mom and dads. He's splitting families up. He calls his party to be a party of family values, yet he's splitting families up, dividing them, and causing great harm and hurt for them.
And Fernando, what about you, being in the chamber tonight, having this experience, but also having your personal experience living through these issues? What did it mean to you to have that experience tonight, but also to hear some of those issues addressed by the President in the way he did?
To be here, it's a great honor. You know, not a lot of people get to be here. It was a really out of the blue question if I wanted to be here. So you know, it's a really good opportunity to be here. Though some of the stuff that he did say, sometimes I don't agree, but whatever he says is usually what people might agree with.
And Congressman, again, from being in that chamber, following along from our vantage point here, we saw some moments where there were standing ovations that were very partisan in nature. There were some moments where there were some Democrats standing in support of those circumstances. In speaking to some Republicans tonight, they saw hope and optimism in those moments. What was your feeling being there in the chamber where some members of your party chose not to go tonight at all or did object in other ways? Did it feel to you like there were instances where people were on the same page, or did it feel very divided?
What I think is critical is that the country is divided, and a house divided cannot stand. You know, and as long as the president continues to blame people and scapegoat people and finger point at people and not lift all votes up at the same time, our nation cannot move forward. And so when I visit these detention centers and I see these moms that were on their way to work or dads that were coming out of work now facing deportation, the hurt they're feeling and the impact it will have on the American economy, we still have not measured to its full extent. So, you know, the president could say whatever he likes, but the country, unfortunately, is divided. And a country divided cannot move forward. I would have liked to hear more reconciliation from him, try to work in a bipartisan way, things that he knows that we can both agree on instead of just being very partisan and divisive.
Congressman Fernando, thank you so much for your time tonight, for being with us, and hope you enjoyed your first State of the Union experience.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. We'll be back soon with more reaction to President Donald Trump's State of the Union. We are back here now in the U.S. Capitol getting reaction from some members of Congress to President Donald Trump's State of the Union address. I am joined now by Congressman Al Green of Texas. Congressman, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
My honor to be with you. Thank you.
If you could please start off just by giving us your big picture view of what you heard from the president tonight.
Well, I heard very little because I was escorted out of the chamber because I confronted the president about his portraying Michelle and Barack Obama as members of the primate family, which I find totally unacceptable and rejectionable. And as a result, I displayed this, and I wanted the president to see that black people are not apes. The president has never apologized. He's never said it was wrong. He's expressed no regrets. The president is imposing racism from the highest office in the land. And we cannot tolerate this. If you tolerate racism, you perpetuate it. And we have to speak up, and I would hope that it would be said across the globe that we in this country are not going to tolerate racism, especially from the presidency.
Leading into tonight's State of the Union address, Leader Jeffries and others in your party suggested moments of, it's okay if you disagree or if you don't want to come, but let's keep that in a decorum sort of situation. Do you feel that this met that moment, or were you trying to react in a different way?
Well, I did not get permission, and I did not ask for permission. I think that when you have a president who will call members of Congress lunatics from the floor of the House of Representatives, you've got to deal with that. And you can't deal with it from afar, in my opinion. I don't begrudge anyone else for the methodology that they utilize to deal with this moment. And I was doing what my conscience dictated, and I assumed that they would do a similar thing. But the president, I am told, I didn't hear it, but I'm told he said some disparaging things tonight about members of Congress. We cannot allow this to continue. If you tolerate it, you perpetuate it, you normalize it. We're living in a highly abnormal circumstance, and we have to stop it. And you're not going to stop it, in my opinion, by not confronting it. So I went there to confront the President of the United States of America and let him know that his behavior is unacceptable. People around him tell him what he wants to hear. Someone has to tell him what he needs to know. This was a needs-to-know moment for the President, and sometimes on some issues, it's just better to stand alone than not stand at all. Rosa Parks was alone when she took the seat on that bus that ignited a spark that perpetrated and perpetuated a civil rights movement. As Dr. King was alone when he went to the Birmingham jail. He reminded us that on some issues you have to do that which is neither safe nor politic nor popular. You do it because it's right. This was the right thing to do.
Last year, during the president's joint address, you also were escorted from the chamber at that moment. This year, this was the choice that you made to make your feelings known. Does it feel to you that those messages get across, or is it really kind of hoping to have moments like this where you can explain your thinking? I mean, do you think the president is really seeing and hearing you and understanding where you're coming from, or is it something different than that for you?
Well, I do these things, I've done them for a multiplicity of reasons. One is we have to let posterity know that when we had racism emanating from the presidency, that we took a stand. Those who look through the vista of time, upon this time, have to see that there were people who stood up. Just as when I look back upon the civil rights movement, there were people who stood up. John Lewis and I were very good friends. We went to jail together protesting, and he told me you have to get in the way. So tonight I did what he would call, I got into good trouble by standing in the way, by getting in the way. I didn't raise my voice at the president. I didn't raise my hand. I in no way tried to indicate that I would harm him physically. I wanted him to get a message, and I think that he got the message, and that was very important. And it's the kind of thing that I did with intentionality. This was not spontaneity.
Very soon, there are elections taking place in your home state. What are you looking for in terms of what's coming up in the primary elections in Texas, and how do you feel about your party overall headed into the midterms this year?
Well, I'll make that a two-part question. I'll deal with the party and I'll deal with myself. I think the party has an opportunity to do something that has taken us decades to accomplish, and that is elect a person statewide who is a Democrat in Texas. I think it can happen. That's part one. Part two, as it relates to me, I don't know that I'll win the election. I have $1.5 million being spent to remove me from office. That's a lot of money. And they're spending it in a Democratic primary, but it's Republican money. The paradigm has shifted, at least as it relates to me. They're using Republican money to support a Democrat in a Democratic primary to remove me from office. The president had them to draw my congressional district out of existence with the number 9, so I'm now in an 18th congressional district. But you know, these things are they're secondary or tertiary or quaternary. They're not primary. This is things that can happen. What is happening to people in the long term will be these displays of bigotry and hatred that can cause us to roll back the clock. I remember when I had to go to the back door to get my food, when I had to drink from a filthy colored water fountain, when people were calling me names with impunity, when I had to step off the sidewalk to let other people pass. I'm old enough to remember these things. Longevity provides certain benefits in terms of how you view the future and the present because of past actions. So I just think that we have to take this stand, and I'm proud to do what I've done. I'm not ashamed of what I've done, and I never thought about consequences in deciding to do it.
Congressman, thank you so much for your time tonight. We really appreciate you.
Thank you. You're very kind.
Thank you, sir. Al Green of Texas, and we will be bringing you more reaction to the speech here shortly. Back soon. Hey there, and welcome back again. I am here with Sagar Meghani. Sagar, we have heard from several members of Congress who have stopped by to let us know what their thoughts were on the State of the Union. But let's go back to our conversation about kind of what we thought we were going to hear, and then what we ended up hearing. We talked a little bit about the economy and immigration, but where are you in terms of expectations? Did we really hear what we expected we would?
I think what we heard was the laundry list recitation of winning so much, as President Trump is so fond of saying, in hopes that ticking off all of what he sees as wins and he sees as accomplishments will offset what we're very clearly hearing from Americans. Discontent about his handling of the economy and immigration, like we talked about off the start. Those are two of the big ones for the Trump agenda, and if he is losing people on those and not gaining ground, it's going to be tough to see how that turns around for the party as a whole come the midterms. So apparently his thought was, well, we did this, and this. But if those aren't the true pressing things that people are worried about, where does that get you? So it'll be interesting to see what the administration spin, what the White House spin, and then, frankly, what the Democrats spin will be in the coming days. Do these really resonate immediately? No. We often see a president hit the road the next day to immediately build upon what they said.
Mm-hmm.
This is not that president. We're not going to see President Trump on the road until Friday at the earliest. So what impact is it going to have on voters' minds? We may not really have a full sense until we get to the fall and those pivotal midterms.
Yeah, it was interesting for me to think about what was going to be happening with, some of that touring and everything else. I think we have another member of Congress who is willing to come and speak with us. So, Sagar, we will come back in just a moment, but let's do a little switcheroo here.
A little switch.
Hey there, so we just did a little switch. I'm here with Representative Barry Moore. Hello, sir. Good to see you. We just met just a moment ago. But if you wouldn't mind, give me your 30,000-foot view of what we heard from the president tonight.
So I think it was a great picture of compare and contrast. The broken country under Joe Biden and now a nation that we're going to experience the golden age of America. And I think the president did a good job talking about the criminal elements. He talked about the victims of crime, Ms. Zarenka on the Charlotte, North Carolina subway. He talked about the 5-year-old girl who was hit by a CDL driver who didn't speak English. And then from that, we went to talking about heroes of America. And to me, there was such a compare and contrast between the prior administration and open borders and drugs and criminal elements on our street with a broken economy, 20% inflation over 4 years. And then he talks about now the things that we're doing to fix the nation. So I thought it was a nice tie-in. We talked, like I said, about from broken to fixed. And he said the greatest days of this nation are ahead of us.
How do you think that squares with what voters have been saying about how they really do want maybe less of a focus on international and more on their kitchen table, and how that translates into the midterm elections and the challenges ahead for both parties, but for your party maintaining control in the House and Senate?
So for us, I think on April 15th, when these families start seeing the tax refunds they're going to get in the big, beautiful bill, the largest tax cut in the history of this nation. So those are things I think that we'll see play out. Obviously, inflation's down. We talked about that. It's 1.7% for the last 3 months of the last year. And we had such high inflation. We were printing money up here like drunk sailors, and I tell everybody that's really an insult to drunk sailors because under Biden we were just printing the money. And so now we put downward pressure on spending with the big, beautiful bill. We're giving tax breaks on working class Americans and people who are, like the president said, that are really building this country. No tax on tips, no tax on overtimes, no tax on interest on car purchases of cars made in America. And so I think that there's an opportunity for us between now and the midterms to do really well, especially as the tax breaks start to hit and we start seeing people actually have homeownership again with low mortgage rates.
Are there some challenges for your party in landing that message, as well as any other counter-programming or potentially dealing with people who might be skeptical of some other actions, like international actions abroad or whatever, something that voters have mentioned in polling lately?
Well, I think the challenges are this. We've had 4 years of just a broken America last government. And so it's going to take a little time between now and November. But I feel pretty optimistic. The polling numbers I've seen is the Republicans are 66 points ahead of the Democrats by Quinnipiac polls, which are not normally friendly to Republicans. That's the highest it's ever been. And so I think they approve of the job. And I think the American people in the last election, all the swing states went for President Trump. The popular vote went for President Trump. So that tells me that they're going to give us a chance to do what we need to do, and I think we're delivering on those promises.
Any other takeaways from tonight specifically?
No, I just think that the president was pretty optimistic. I think it was one of the best speeches I've heard, State of the Union, and I think it's a great time for our nation. It's the 250th anniversary of this nation, and I think this nation's on a comeback.
Congressman, thank you for your time. Really appreciate you.
Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you all so much. We will be back shortly with more reaction to President Donald Trump's State of the Union address. Back soon. Welcome back. Again, you have been along with us this whole evening for AP's live stream coverage of President Donald Trump's State of the Union address. I'm here one more time with Sagar Meghani. Sagar, I'm so sorry we keep getting interrupted, but that's because we've had a lot of members of Congress who have been wanting to come and speak with us.
I'll get over it. It's okay.
I know. I owe you a lot of candy and maybe other bribes. But let's get back to talking about this speech. A lot of what we have been discussing earlier, the election is underneath all of this. So from what we listened to and what we saw in terms of the partisan divides on display in that chamber, what does it seem like the president needs to accomplish next? You just mentioned before we went out just now, he's not doing the traditional immediate post-State of the Union travel, but we know he is going to be traveling more. What do we expect to hear from President Trump casting ahead toward the midterms now that we've gotten through State of the Union?
That's been the interesting part, is that over the last several weeks, even before the State of the Union, the White House had been saying the president's going to get out weekly domestic audiences to pitch this. Mm-hmm. And that hasn't really happened. We've seen the occasional speech when he visits a factory. He was in Georgia last week. We haven't seen that full-on thrust. I don't think he has much choice between now and November but to do that. And Democrats will keep on, he can mock the word affordability, but until we see that significant reduction in inflation, there's been some movement here and there, but economic growth has not been what he claimed it would be. Inflation has not come down to what the Federal Reserve wants to see. He's going to have to fight all of that. And how he can build on tonight to make that case, that remains to be seen. I mean, he's a good speech giver, right? He captivates people at rallies, but until, again, as we talked about before, the rhetoric is fine, but until people go to the grocery store and see that that stuff does not cost as much as it does now, I don't know how much that matters. That's a bottom line issue. So that is the obvious headwind facing not just the president, but Mike Johnson and John Thune and the rest of the leadership, as they hope that come a year from now, they are still in the leadership inside this building.
Not shocking, but it seems like every single campaign that we cover, regardless of who's in the White House or who's seeking the White House, it comes down to the economy.
Always. Keep it simple.
Yep.
The last word, we won't add that.
That's what we always hear every single time. It's all about the economy. And I won't use the colorful language that some presidents and other folks have used to describe exactly what's going on there, but it really is kitchen table issues. And when Americans feel like they're getting ahead, or at least not going backward in terms of their own personal economics, then that's what we see happening.
Their pocketbook is what matters.
Right. In watching the actual divides in the chamber, the Democrats who, like Congressman Green, who was just with us, chose to protest in some way, some shouted, some left, some didn't show up. What do you think that says to us as observers in terms of what we can expect to be seeing about that partisanship? Obviously, it plays a role in elections, but coming out of this State of the Union, given that's what we saw tonight.
There was some attempt by the president to essentially wrap himself in the flag, right? Celebrating the Olympic men's hockey team right off the bat, promising the nation's highest civilian honor for the goalkeeper, handing out military awards. Those kind of things, nobody's going to boo. You're not going to boo a gold medal at the Olympics. You're not going to boo a retired Korean War veteran who's receiving the Medal of Honor. But that only goes so far when, at the same time, you're launching your own partisan attacks. Democrats have shown they're not going to back down from doing the same. I don't know how that divide is bridged. It just becomes so deep-seated throughout his first term and now the second term. And I'm frankly almost surprised that there weren't more outbursts in the chamber. But as you noted, there maybe weren't enough Democrats there to mount that type of resistance.
Just not going or going to counter
They were outside. They were somewhere else. They were doing, some said they were doing town halls with their constituents because nobody wanted to hear it. I don't know how they can bridge that gulf, but maybe it takes another gold medal somewhere along the line to get everybody on the same page. I mean, it's...
Well, the next Olympics are unfortunately not until 2028.
But they'll be here, so maybe that helps.
Yeah, so that... Thank you, as always, Sagar, for all of these insights and for sticking with me on this very long, record-breaking State of the Union night. But that'll do it for us here at the U.S. Capitol. On behalf of Sagar Meghani and the Associated Press, I am Meg Kennard. Thank you for being with us for AP's first ever live stream broadcast from a State of the Union night here inside the U.S. Capitol. We really appreciate you being with us. You can stay tuned to more AP coverage of this speech and other things throughout the government on apnews.com. Thank you so much. Have a great night.